I got home early that afternoon, earlier than I was supposed to. I remember the stillness of the street, the way the wind barely moved the branches of the pear tree out front. My shoes crunched quietly against the driveway gravel as I turned the corner and saw the police car parked at the curb. My first thought, absurd and innocent, was that someone must have gotten into a fender bender, something small, something fixable. But then I saw the front door. It was wide open, not ajar. Wide open, like someone had run through it or fled it, like the house itself was screaming. One of the officers, a young man with a stiff posture and eyes too old for his face, stepped toward me and raised his hand. Ma'am, he said gently but firmly, you better not come in. My voice cracked before I could even hear the sound of it. Where's my child? His face? Oh, God, his face. She's not here anymore, huh? He said. And in that one instant, my heart, my breath, and my world, I split in half. I don't remember walking inside. I don't remember anything except the pounding of my pulse and the sense that something was pressing down on me, something heavy and final and cruel. I do remember the smell. You never forget the smell of fear left behind in a room. Not the dramatic kind, but the quieter aftermath. Sweat, something sour, a broken cup of tea steeped into the carpet, burnt food, mud tracked through the hallway. The house wasn't just disordered, it was violated. The dining chair overturned, the curtain rod dangling, one of Lily's stuffed bears abandoned near the stairs with a tear in its side. A woman in plain clothes with a badge clipped to her belt met me just inside the entryway. Are you her mother? She asked. Yes. I wasn't even sure I'd spoken the word out loud, but she nodded. I'm Detective Rains. We need you to come with us, not here. But where's Lily? I asked again, slower this time, like the truth might change if I gave it room to breathe. Her eyes didn't move. Your daughter is safe. She's not here right now. That's all I can say until we talk. And then I felt my knees start to go. My body buckled before I could stop it, and the detective reached for my arm just in time to lower me to the bench in the entryway. I must have looked ridiculous. Still in my blazer from work, handbag slipping off my shoulder, knees scraped from the floor, like a woman who hadn't yet caught up with the reality of her own life. Safe, I whispered. You said she's safe. Yes, she said. She's been taken to a secure location for immediate care. Not home, not hospital. Secure. I looked up at her and something inside me began to shatter piece by piece. Is someone hurt? She hesitated. Not long, just long enough for me to know. Yes, she said. Your husband was found unconscious in the upstairs office. He's being taken to County General now. You can follow the ambulance if you like. I looked toward the stairs. I wanted to go up, to see it, to know, but the younger officer from outside was already there, his hand on the rail. Ma'am, please. Yeah, he said, we need to secure the scene. What happened? The detective crouched beside me, her voice low. We don't know everything yet, but someone called in a welfare check from the neighbor's house. Said they heard shouting, something breaking. When we arrived, the door was open. Your daughter wasn't here. We found your husband upstairs. No one else in the house. I was trying to catch up. But Lily, was she taken? Did someone take her? She paused again. We don't believe she was taken. She left. Alone? My voice cracked. She's 6. She wouldn't just leave. I understand. That's why we need to talk through everything carefully. There's something else. Her voice softened, but it didn't lose its gravity. There was a note. I blinked. A note? Yes, she said. Left on the desk upstairs. It had your daughter's name on it. I reached out instinctively. Let me see it. I can't release it yet, I'm sorry. But it wasn't in your husband's handwriting. That much I can tell you. Not his handwriting, so not him. I stared at the stairs again. For years, that office had been locked. Lily wasn't allowed near it, not even to bring up his tea, and I had respected that boundary, even when I didn't understand it. Because it was easier to let a man keep secrets than to invite the consequence of opening the wrong one. Do you think he hurt her? I asked. Detective Rains stood. That's what we're going to find out. She didn't say no. She didn't say yes. She said find out. And that was somehow worse. Where is she now? I asked. We took her to a child trauma center. She's being evaluated. Can I go to her? Soon, she said. But I need you to answer a few questions first. Away from the scene. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling. Then I stood. Because I didn't care who was lying or hiding or hurt. All I cared about was getting to my daughter, to Lily, and finding out what happened in this house before it swallowed us all. The waiting room was a pale green, the kind of institutional color meant to soothe, but only made me feel more awake, more wrong in my skin. The chairs were vinyl, cracked in places, and the smell of antiseptic clung to the air like an apology. They wouldn't let me see Lily yet, that's what they said. She's with a specialist, one of the nurses told me, kindly but firmly. And it's important we don't disrupt the initial assessment. Disrupt. Like I was a noise instead of a mother. Detective Rains brought me tea. Styrofoam cup. No lid. It's hot, she warned. I held it anyway. My hands needed something to do. When was the last time you spoke to your daughter? She asked, her voice calm, neutral. This morning, I said, before I left for work. And she seemed all right. That word. All right. It felt so insufficient. She had a cold, I said. But she was in good spirits. She kissed me goodbye, asked if she could have macaroni for dinner. And your husband? I hesitated. He was still asleep, or pretending to be. Detective Rains tilted her head. Pretending? I sipped the tea. It was bitter and lukewarm. He's been distant. For months. Years, maybe. We share a house, that's all. But he was still the primary caregiver? I nodded slowly. He worked from home. I've always been the one out the door by 7. He walked Lily to school, picked her up, made dinner. That was our agreement. Rains made a note in her little notebook. Not a spiral pad, I noticed. A hardback journal. Neat handwriting, thin pen, precise. There's something else, Wurst, I said slowly. I don't know if it matters. Everything matters. I looked at her, trying to decide how much truth I was ready to say out loud. He used to lock the office door every night. Said it was for work. Private client files, but I never saw him work. Never saw the files. Did you ever ask? Of course I asked. My voice cracked a little, and I had to take another sip to steady it. He always had a reason. He was good at that, making me feel like the question was the problem. Rains nodded, like she'd heard that before. Maybe too many times. There was something in that room, I said. Not just paperwork. Something more. I could feel it. Even Lily knew not to go near it. Did she ever mention anything? Something she saw or heard? I blinked. Once she told me she heard him talking to someone. In the office, at night. But when I asked who it was, she said he was talking to the wall people. I thought she was making it up. You know, kids and their imaginary friends. But even as I said it, I felt my stomach twist. The memory came back sharp and sudden. Lily, maybe 4 years old, whispering to her stuffed rabbit saying, Daddy gets mean when the wall people talk too loud. I never told anyone that because I didn't want to believe it meant anything. Detective Rains leaned forward. Has Lily ever been hurt before? No. I shook my head too quickly. No, I mean, she's had bruises, scrapes, but never anything serious, and she never said anything. But hadn't there been a fall down the stairs last spring? A bruise on her hip I couldn't explain? She said she slipped, and he said I was worrying too much. Rose, Rains said gently, what are you afraid you'll find in that office? The teacup trembled in my hands. I'm afraid I won't find anything, I whispered, because it would mean I never saw it, that I let her stay in a house with a man who was falling apart. Or worse, she didn't argue. She didn't rush to comfort me. She just let the silence fill the space like truth. The door opened. A woman in scrubs stepped in, looking tired and kind. She's asking for her mother. I dropped the cup. Tea sloshed onto my lap, burning through my trousers. I didn't feel it. I was already on my feet. The room was softly lit. A mural of sea turtles and dolphins swam across the far wall. Lily was sitting up in the hospital bed, a stuffed bunny tucked into her arms. Not her bunny, a hospital one. Mama, she said. Her voice was small but clear. I sat on the edge of the bed. I wanted to pull her into my arms, but I waited. Can I hug you? I asked. She nodded, and I wrapped myself around her like I could rebuild her from touch alone. She smelled like shampoo and salt. Her tiny hands gripped my shirt. I'm sorry, she whispered. I broke the rules. I pulled back, looked into her face. What rules, sweetheart? Daddy said never go in the office, she said. But I had to. I had to see what the noises were. My breath stopped. There was someone in there, Mama, she said. I felt my heart crack open. And in the silence that followed, I realized whatever was waiting inside that office wasn't just about my husband. It was about Lily. And it was about something far older than last night. I didn't sleep that night. After Lily was finally settled, after the questions and the doctors and the hushed tones at the nurse's station, I was taken home under escort. Detective Rains stayed behind. She said she had more to look into, more to confirm. The house looked wrong in the moonlight. All the angles sharper, the windows darker. A crime scene now, though that word still didn't feel real. I stood outside the front gate and stared up at the second-story window, his office. For years, I'd walked past that door like it was sacred, like it had teeth. Even after the arguments, even after the silences stretched too long, I never touched it. Not once. I used to tell myself that was respect. Now I wasn't so sure. Detective Rains met me the next morning on the porch. She looked like she hadn't slept either. A folder in her hand, a look in her eyes that told me we weren't anywhere near the bottom of this yet. Your husband regained consciousness late last night, she said. He's stable, alert. And he claims he doesn't remember what happened. Says he was attacked. By who? She raised an eyebrow. He said by them. I stared. Them? Rains gave me a look I couldn't quite read. He said they'd been watching the house for months, listening, whispering through the vents. He said Lily let them in. A chill moved through me. He said Lily. Don't take it to heart yet, she interrupted gently. We don't know how much of it is real and how much is, well, a mind unraveling. But he's not violent, I said, the defense sounding hollow even to my own ears. He's never been violent. Has he ever been treated for mental health issues? She asked. Hospitalizations? Medications? I shook my head. Not that I know of. He didn't talk about that kind of thing. He said therapy was for people who couldn't control themselves. Rains let out a small sigh. We're still going through his digital footprint. His laptop, emails, call logs. But there's something you need to see. She led me inside, past the broken furniture, past the police tape, up the stairs to the room that had been locked for so long. The door was open now. I stepped in and the smell hit me first. Not mold or rot, but the sterile, stinging scent of chemicals and something older. Dust, paper, ink, and something underneath that I couldn't place. Something sharp. The room looked nothing like I imagined. It was obsessively clean. A single desk, 2 monitors, no family photos, no windows. The curtains were drawn and nailed down. The walls were covered in soundproofing foam. That explained the whispers, the voices through the vents. There were holes drilled into the corners. Tiny microphones, maybe? A camera on the desk pointed at the door, a second one mounted above the closet. On the far wall, a whiteboard, covered in scrawl. Dates, times, single words. Most repeated, 3:13 a.m. Click, click, click. Beneath floorboards, movement. Lily humming. Not alone. Do not engage. Do not believe. What is this? I whispered. Rains stepped beside me. He was documenting something, or thought he was. But why Lily's name? She handed me a photograph, printed and marked in red pen. It was a still from one of the cameras. Lily, in the hallway, standing outside the office door. She looked like she was talking to it. Like the door was listening. I covered my mouth. When was this? 2 nights ago. Was she alone? Rains hesitated. We believe so, but your husband had a different theory. I turned to her. Tell me. He believes someone's been communicating with her through the walls. Through his notes, he refers to them as the others, the forgotten. It gets less coherent the deeper it goes. There are pages and pages of logs, but the common thread is Lily. He believes she was being groomed, recruited. Recruited? I nearly laughed. That's absurd. Yes, Rains said carefully, but he didn't think so. I crossed the room and looked at the wall behind the desk. There was something carved into the wood beneath the calendar, almost hidden by a hanging clipboard. I pushed it aside. 4 letters carved deep and desperate. Help. And beneath it, smaller, L.R. Lily Rose. I felt the floor shift beneath me. She was in here, I whispered. She got in. Rains stepped forward. There was a second key, hidden inside a hollowed book. She must have found it. I felt my knees go weak. But why wouldn't she tell me? Because, Rains said quietly, I think she thought you already knew. I turned sharply. Children are like mirrors, she said. They assume the rules exist for a reason. If you never questioned why the door was locked, why would she? She thought the secret belonged to all of you. My chest felt tight. And the bruises? The nightmares? Rains walked to the desk and opened the top drawer. She pulled out a manila folder. You're not going to like this. Inside were dozens of drawings, all in crayon, all unmistakably done by a child. I picked up the first one. A girl in a pink dress, my daughter, standing in a dark room, surrounded by shadows, eyes in the walls, a red figure behind her, featureless, words in shaky block letters at the bottom. He said if I tell, they go away. I dropped the folder, because in that moment, the truth didn't just knock, it broke the door off its hinges. And this is where everything began to rot. They didn't arrest my husband that day. That fact still burns in me. They took him to psychiatric observation instead. For his own safety, they said. For everyone's safety. Words wrapped in cotton, soft enough to hide the sharp edges underneath. I sat beside Lily's bed that night, watching her chest rise and fall. The machines hummed quietly, a rhythm I tried to match my breathing to. She slept with one hand curled around my finger, like she was afraid I might disappear if she let go. Mama, she whispered suddenly, eyes still closed. I'm here, I said instantly. Too fast, too eager. Did Daddy get in trouble? The question pierced straight through me. I swallowed. Daddy's sick right now. Doctors are helping him. She was quiet for a moment, then, he said you wouldn't believe me. My throat tightened. Believe what, sweetheart? Her eyes opened. They were too old. That's the only way I can describe them. He said the bad room was to keep me safe, she said. But he got scary. He said I was letting them in by accident. I felt cold all over. Who, Lily? She shrugged slightly. The quiet ones. That word again. Quiet. As if silence itself had hands. He told me not to tell you, she continued, because you loved him. And if I told, you'd be sad. And if you were sad, it would be my fault. I closed my eyes. Just for a second. Long enough to feel the weight of that sentence settle into my bones. That was never your fault, I said, my voice trembling despite my effort. Never. But Mama, she whispered, turning her face toward me. Why didn't you open the door? The room seemed to tilt. What door? The office, she said. You walked past it every day. I thought grown-ups don't open doors they're scared of. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because she was right. I had been scared, and she had learned that fear from me. The pressure came quickly after that. Child services, evaluations, meetings where people spoke around me instead of to me, notes scribbled, glances exchanged, the quiet judgment of professionals trained to look for cracks. They asked me about my marriage, about the locked door, about why I didn't insist, why I didn't push, why I didn't protect. Every question felt like an accusation wrapped in policy language. Detective Rains tried to shield me, but even she couldn't stop it all. There's concern, one woman said gently, hands folded, about the environment Lily was in. I was there. I snapped before I could stop myself. I was her environment. She didn't flinch. You were present. That's not always the same thing. That night, I went home alone. The house was still sealed, but they allowed me in with supervision. I moved through the rooms like a ghost, every step echoing too loudly. I stood outside the office door again. Open now, empty, stripped, but I could still feel it. The air was heavier there, like the room remembered. In the corner, something caught my eye, a small dent in the baseboard. I knelt, fingers tracing the mark. Child-sized, from kneeling. She used to sit here, I murmured, listening. And suddenly, the memories I'd buried came rushing back. The way Lily flinched when voices rose on television, how she'd cover her ears when the house creaked at night, how she once asked me if walls could hear secrets. I'd laugh then. Had? God forgive me, I laughed. I stood up slowly, rage replacing shock, grief hardening into something sharper. This wasn't just illness. This wasn't just delusion. This was control. He had turned his fear into her prison, wrapped it in rules, in silence, in love, twisted just enough to confuse a child. And the worst part? I had helped him by staying quiet, by not asking harder questions, by choosing peace over truth. The next morning, Detective Rains called. There's something else. Yeah, she said. We found deleted files on his computer. Parenting forms, conspiracy boards, threads about sensitive children, and threshold listeners. He believed Lily was special. My stomach turned. Special how? She could hear things others couldn't, Rains said. He thought the house was responding to her. I closed my eyes. And now he's saying you knew, that you were part of it, that you let it happen. The words hit like a slap. They're considering supervised visitation only, Rains added quietly. For both of you, until the investigation concludes. For me? My voice broke. Why me? There was a pause. Because, she said gently, the system doesn't just punish monsters, it punishes silence. I hung up the phone and sat at the kitchen table. For the first time since this began, I didn't cry. I felt something else. Resolve. If they were going to pull my motherhood apart thread by thread, then I would lay every truth bare. Even the ones that made me look weak. Even the ones that hurt. Especially those. Because I would not let my daughter grow up believing doors stay closed just because someone says so. And I would not let anyone rewrite my silence as consent. Not anymore. And this was the day everything finally broke open. The hearing room was smaller than I imagined. Beige walls, a long table, too many folders with my daughter's name printed neatly on their spines, like she was a case instead of a child who loved strawberries and hated socks. My husband sat across from me, wrists loose, posture calm. Too calm. He looked thinner, eyes sunken, but when he saw Lily's drawing in my hands, his mouth twitched. Not a smile, not quite. Something worse. Recognition. They asked him to speak. He did. He talked about protection, about vigilance, about how the house had been awake, how Lily was open and I was blind. He said he locked the office to keep them out. He said Lily understood. He said she listened better than I ever did. And then he said it. She knew what would happen if she told. The room went silent. I stood up before anyone could stop me. No, I said. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. She knew what you told her would happen. That's not the same thing. He looked at me then. Really looked. For the first time in years. You never believed me, he said softly. You chose comfort. I nodded. Yes, I said. I did, and that's on me. A murmur moved through the room. The judge raised a hand, but I kept going. But what you did, I said, stepping closer, holding Lily's drawing up for everyone to see, was teach a 6-year-old that fear was love and silence was safety. You taught her that doors matter more than people. His composure cracked. just for a second. They were watching her, he snapped. I saw it. No, I said. You watched her, you monitored her, you scared her until she learned how to disappear. I turned to the panel. This isn't a haunted house. It's a broken man who made his child carry his terror. The judge asked Lily's therapist to speak next. She described the nightmares, the rules Lily followed in her play, how she flinched when adults whispered, how she said, if I'm quiet, nobody gets hurt. That was the moment. That was when I saw it on his face. Not guilt, relief, because someone else had finally said it out loud. The decision came quickly after that. No contact, mandatory commitment, full custody pending continued evaluation. When they let him out, he didn't look at me. He looked at the drawing. That night, Lily slept in my bed, her back warm against my chest. Mama, she asked. Yes, baby. Are the quiet ones gone? I kissed her hair. They were never real, but the fear was. And that's gone now. She thought about that, then nodded. Okay, she said. And for the first time in months, she slept without flinching. I lay there awake, staring at the ceiling, knowing this wasn't the end, but it was the truth. And the truth finally had teeth.